My name is Courtney, and this is the Unbroken Blueprint, where you don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to be willing to see what's true. This is episode 3, and we are going to talk about what if the problem isn't that your life isn't working? What if the problem is that you've been organizing your entire life around avoiding worst case scenario instead of allowing the best one? Because that's what I did. I stayed in things that didn't feel right. I tried to manage people. I tried to make misaligned situations work. Not because they were right for me, but because I was trying to avoid what might go wrong if I let them go. And here's what I've realized. You cannot live in your best case scenario while you are still emotionally, mentally, or physically committed to the things that block it. It doesn't work. At some point, you have to make a decision. Not a decision based on fear, not a decision based on who might understand or who might not, but a decision that says, I am no longer available for anything that requires me to abandon myself. And when you do that, something really interesting happens. Your life doesn't instantly become perfect, but it does become open to things that actually fit, open to people who meet you where you are, open to opportunities that don't require you to shrink to receive them. And suddenly the question isn't, what if everything falls apart? It becomes, oh my gosh, what if this is actually working out better than I imagined? And that's where I'm living right now. Not in delusion, not in denial, but in a very grounded, very intentional decision to double down on the best case scenario. Not chase it, but make space for it. And I want to talk about what that actually looks like in real life, because I think I may have painted a picture, and I was intentionally trying to explain a destination that we can all reach. I had some responses from people and they were like, oh my gosh, Courtney, I am so happy that you are just thriving. And it made me chuckle because I would not categorize myself as thriving. Although I do have moments where I think that's the case, I'm not there yet. I'm still very much in a reconstruction of my life and myself as well. I'm doing this in real time. This is transformation happening as I'm living it. And so I am wanting to be clear that every day doesn't feel like I'm walking in my unbroken blueprint. It does in a way that I know I'm on the right path, but it doesn't mean that there is no pain or discomfort. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the episode. And I think people say, choose yourself all the time. Don't feel guilty about putting yourself first. And it's just an inherent system, because what happens is we start developing patterns of giving and then not factoring in our own needs because we want love or attention or validation. But that's giving while sacrificing yourself, which to me is not the purpose of giving. I think it's a very convoluted thing in our world, and especially in religion and spirituality. I think we're sent mixed messages of don't focus on yourself too much. You should really go and volunteer and put your focus on other people. And then you have the opposite message of choose yourself. You need to put yourself first and make yourself a priority. And when you say those things to a chronic over-accommodator or over-giver, there's a pattern in place that's like autopilot. When you say something like choose yourself to a codependent, it's just like, okay, yep, I'll go get a pedicure and my life is good. But none of the patterns have changed. And I lived like that for so long. I was just managing other people's reactions and being happy with good things, but not my actual desired outcome. It wasn't the thing that I wanted, but it was a good thing that I was being given. And that was a pattern I had from childhood. I was conditioned to say, well, it may not be what you want, but it's good, and be grateful for it. And so when that happens to you over and over again, your expectations get lower and lower. And then you, in your own humility, are trying to say, I want to be grateful for everything that God gives me. And you settle for breadcrumbs, pedicures, manicures, massages, nights out, and you consider that a good life. But those are just little nice things that can exist in misalignment. The same as hard things can exist in the aligned path. When you're walking the aligned path, it doesn't mean that there isn't discomfort and heartache, pain, but you're in the right direction. And conversely, when you're in the misaligned life, which I was for a very long time, and I can say this with 100% confirmation, that you can mistake good things happening in your life for alignment, and things just feel familiar but off, and it's like, but this is good. Why would I question this? But you're still not going to bed feeling like you're doing what God has created you to do, or being treated the way you deserve to be treated, or are in the relationship that you long to be in. You just continue to fix misalignment instead of leaving it. And then I lived in quiet anxiety, sometimes loud anxiety. It wasn't always quiet. And overthinking. I wasn't choosing my life. I was just managing outcomes. But there was just a moment, and it wasn't dramatic. It shouldn't have been any different than any other time, but it was just the last time. And it was like, I can't do this anymore. It wasn't an explosive moment. It was a very clear, grounded realization that I couldn't become who I was meant to become and stay where I was. So, what I mean by doubling down on best case scenario, what does this actually mean? I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. It does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It does not mean ignoring reality. And it does not mean constant positivity. But it does mean removing what blocks alignment, making decisions from self-trust, letting excitement guide instead of fear. Best case scenario doesn't come from adding more to your life. It comes from subtracting what was never meant to stay. And this is when things started to get good, because you start using excitement as your compass, because it's like breathing fresh air again. It's like you've been in a space that feels suffocating, and you slowly get more clean, fresh air, and that air feels like excitement about your future. And you need to let that lead your decisions. It doesn't feel like fear-based decisions. Fear-based decisions say, I should do this because this probably is better for this person or that person. That's not using excitement as a compass. And I made major, massive life decisions up until very recently exactly like that. And I woke up one day and my life looked like everyone else's choices but mine. So if you're excited about something and it feels aligned, you don't need consensus, you need courage to follow it. And I'm going to touch on this point again. I want to say this really clearly. It doesn't mean that every day feels amazing. It doesn't remove discomfort. It doesn't guarantee outcomes. But it does guarantee alignment. I don't know exactly how everything will unfold, but I trust the direction I'm walking in. And so now I ask you, where are you still holding on to something that you know isn't right? What are you trying to manage instead of release? What would your life look like if you stopped organizing around fear. I'm not chasing the best case scenario anymore. I'm removing anything that blocks it. And if you're ready, you can too. Thank you so much for joining me. Please follow me on Instagram at the Unbroken Blueprint, and you can also email me at Courtney@theunbrokenblueprint.com. I would love to hear your feedback. Remember, go live your life like it's yours, because it is. This is the Unbroken Blueprint, and so are you. Bye.